We can start. Everybody ready? Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the June 1st, 2020 Caribou City Council. Roll call. Everyone is present in the room except for Nicole Cody, and she has an excused absence. An inspirational thought. Jane.
Good evening, Mayor, councilors, and the people of Caribou. I'm Jane Farron, Caribou City Clerk. I requested and received permission to provide what I hope is an inspirational thought. On June 1st, 1950, Maine's freshman senator and then the only woman in the U.S. Senate, Margaret J. Smith, gave her Declaration of Conscience speech on the Senate floor. So today marks the 70th anniversary. Senator Smith lived in Skowhegan, and I grew up in Harmony, just 20 miles away. She was my senator and a role model of what women could accomplish. 70 years ago today, she stood up and stated her beliefs. Her speech was 15 minutes long. Mine is about 2.5. She stood up and stated her beliefs. She spoke of the basic principles of Americanism, the right to criticize, the right to hold unpopular beliefs, the right to protest, the right of independent thought. I reached out to our Senator, Susan Collins, to see if she might have something to say about the 70th anniversary, and this is what I received from the Senator. It is a pleasure to recognize the 70th anniversary of Senator Margaret J. Smith's remarkable Declaration of Conscience. Her courageous stand against false accusation and a character assassination, and her call to set aside partisan differences and come together as Americans still speaks to us today. As a senior at Caribou High School, I went to Washington as a delegate to the Senate Youth Program and had the opportunity to meet this great leader. I left her office so inspired and with a copy of her declaration. It is among my most prized possessions, and I am honored to currently hold her seat in the United States Senate and sit at her desk on the Senate floor. That concludes Senator Collins' comments. I have printed each of you a copy of the Senator's speech, and even if you've read it before, I suggest you give it another read. Over the past few months, I've reread Senator Smith's speech several times. I revisit her 4 basic principles of Americanism: that right to criticize, the right to hold unpopular beliefs, the right to protest, the right of independent thought. Each time I absorb more of its meaning and how it has meaning today as it did June 1st, 1950, 70 years ago. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. Now, I can't be seen on camera, but I am wearing red roses, and that's because Margaret J. Smith always wore a red rose. So I wore them in honor of her today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jane. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Item number 4, public forum. Jane.
Yes, I have one email to read.
Thank you.
Gary Aiken.
Thank you.
I was glad to hear the mayor say at the May 18th council meeting that he stands by his original statement about the homestead exemption. His original statement is as follows, and I quote, "The last homestead exemption, the citizens of Caribou only received about 50% of that benefit. The other 50 was used up in expense budgets and stuff. If you would like to hear it, you can watch the video of the April 21st council meeting on the city's website. I repeat, you are totally wrong. The taxpayers have always received the full amount of the homestead exemption. Council cannot use any part of it for expenses or anything else. If council decides to increase the expenses in the city budget, it does not come from the homestead exemption, as it has nothing to do with the amount of it. While we're on the subject of expenses, I read in the following in the Aroostook Republican regarding the $40,000 stimulus package the other week. Gahn pointed out that the measures were chiefly possible because of huge savings for Caribou in the last year. Efforts by employees to reduce expenses, which Gahn said was guided by the City Council, led to more than $200,000 savings for the city. You are obviously reading a different financial summary than I am. It is posted on the city's website if you want to review it. Please advise me and the other taxpayers where these savings in the expense budget are and what guidance City Council used to allow city employees to achieve these huge savings, which obviously only exist in your mind. It would be nice for a change if council replied to questions received in public input rather than just having them read and carry on as if it didn't exist.
Any other comments, letters? Thank you, Jane.
Yep.
Item number 5, minutes from the Caribou City Council regular meeting, May 18th, 2020. Chair will entertain a motion.
Second.
Moved by Tom, seconded by Joan, to accept the minutes from the May 18th, 2020 City Council minutes. I'd like to ask if I could have my letter included in the minutes, the letter that I read on May 18th. So I'd like to have those added if I could.
As an Exhibit A,
I would,
the end,
on the end of the minutes,
as
yes.
Exhibit A? Would
Okay,
that be
yes,
fine?
yeah, that would be fine. Yes, please. Any other comments, questions, additions? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item number 6, bid awards, appointments, and recognitions. Bid award for Public Works roof repair, 6A. Dennis.
We've had in the city's capital improvement project or capital improvement plan for the past couple of years, repairing and replacing the roof on the main Public Works building. We've received a bid or a couple of bids for that work, and 3 bids from Powers Roofing out of Caribou, Buildings Etc. out of Holton, and SMR Inc. out of Portland. The low bid is from Powers Roofing in the amount of $87,480. And where this is part of the capital plan and the funding is available, we would recommend that the council approve the low bid of $87,480 for the work.
Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to accept. Second.
Moved by Hugh, seconded by Tom to accept Powers Roofing, $87,480. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor? Those opposed?
One abstention.
One abstention. Motion carries. Thank you. 6B.
Mayor?
Yes.
Just for the viewer's sake, since Councilor Morrell is off camera, it was Councilor Morrell who abstained on that, just to make it clear for those that couldn't see that.
Thank you very much. 6B, bid award for airport crack seal work. Dennis.
We were notified by the Department of Transportation this year that they did a statewide pavement condition study on all of the airports. And the results of that study are available in my office if somebody would like to see those. It was recommended that Caribou do at least a crack seal project this year, and trying to address some of the cracking that's occurring on the apron area in the taxiways. Basically, doesn't involve the main runway or the new asphalt that was installed in the last couple of years, but a lot of the pavement around the old hangar, the two-bay hangar and the main hangar, needs some work. And so DOT actually is recommending over the next few years that there be some major pavement work done. This is in the hopes that we can stretch the life of the pavement by doing a crack seal project there. And bids were received. We had I know the advertisement went out, but we only had one bid that came back in for the work, and that was from Pelletier's Property Services in the amount of $6,240. And so this work will basically be from all of the old pavement conditions between the runway and Main Street. There's a lot of old pavement up there that needs some work, and this is just a crack seal.
Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Tom, seconded by Joan, to accept the bid from Pelletier Property Services for $6,240. Any other comments or questions?
Is this the 20,000 that we were getting from the? Is that going to offset? That's not going to? It's coming out of the airport reserve fund.
The funding for this project would come out of the Airport Reserve Fund. There's currently over $78,000 in that reserve fund, and so that's where we anticipated taking those funds.
Thank you.
Any others? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstain. Doug. Doug Murrow. Item number 6C, bid award for parking lot maintenance at the fire station.
The city has several parking lots that we own or are part of our facilities and need to maintain. Over the years, the council has set aside funds towards parking lot maintenance. The back of the fire station is in dire need of some repair. We're down to dirt in some places. There's a lot of rutting, a lot of patching that's come up or has been placed down. The grading of the parking lot is not great for storm drainage, and we put a bid out for somebody to come in and rip up all of the old asphalt, regrade the site so that it can drain properly to the closest storm drain, and then put 2 inches of new asphalt down in the parking area. The current parking lot reserve fund that we have to do this maintenance work has $109,000 in it, and so we would be pulling funds from that reserve account. We received 2 bids for this project, one from Soderberg Construction in the amount of $28,500 and one from Trombley Industries in the amount of $37,650. And so in putting this bid out in awarding this bid, we would recommend the low bidder to Soderberg Construction at $28,500. I know that Councilor Morrell, in other conversation with me, has suggested that we hold off on doing this particular work because we know that there's going to be some major or some heavier equipment that might be going into that area to help do some repair work on a retaining wall that's starting to subside a little bit. And so I guess it's a matter of timing. Right now we have a partial design on the retaining wall fix. It would still take another 3 weeks to be able to get that design completed and then put that work out to bid if we're going to do that. Or we again, it's just a matter of timing. If the council would like to approve this bid, subject to no notice to proceed being issued until we have the retaining wall done, we can do that too. We'd have, depending on the timing though, we'll need to go back to these bidders and ask them to confirm that they're willing to hold their bid price for right now an indeterminate amount of time.
Tom?
What type of heavy equipment can we expect about the roof, in regards to the roof? They're going to obviously have to have some cranes and stuff for all the roof repair.
The roof repair itself, we haven't seen what's going to be all involved with that. Most of the structural work that's going to be involved with the fire station is interior, in the sense of adding additional bracings and a lot of welding work. There's not going to be a lot of lifting of things off. I don't know that we're going to need a heavy crane for that. A lot of it's probably going to be just manual labor. But the heavier equipment will probably be related to trying to fix the retaining wall and try to get that to shore up.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Councilor Morrell. We're putting the cart before the horse. And maybe we should see if, it's my opinion, maybe we double check with contractors and say, hey, will you hold the price? And we'll let you know within a month what we're going to do. That's my opinion.
The time frame you said was 3 weeks to get back, probably at the minimum to get back the structural for the retaining wall.
The email I received today from Sewell Engineers, who's doing the work on the fire station and the retaining wall, was, they said 2 to 3 weeks to finish the design, because we didn't ask them to move forward on the design of the retaining wall. We wanted them to focus on the building, and we said just kind of set the retaining wall aside. But if we're going to hold up the parking lot for getting the retaining wall done, then we would tell them, yes, get that design done, and they're saying that's going to be 2 to 3 weeks of time frame, just because of all the other work that they have that they're also doing. So you have 2 to 3 weeks to finalize the design for the retaining wall. We could look at that, and it may be possible that our own crews could do that with our equipment or rented equipment, or we put it out to bid, and then you have another 2 weeks after that. So we'd have to go back to these contractors and really say, are you willing to hold your price for another 6 weeks?
6 weeks,
I think-
because of the potential that may have to go to bid
Right,
for the process of the retaining wall.
right.
I'm agreeable with that, waiting. That's me.
Do the contractors, when they give a bid like that, generally put an expiration date on them?
Yes,
They do, okay. Does this one have an expiration date on it?
I did not see the actual bids, but typically they're not more than 30 days.
So you can at least check and see what that is.
Yes.
Okay. So, did you want to say something, Doug?
No, I'm good.
Fine. Okay. So we're going to let this just set for right now. Is that how we're leaving this?
Okay.
I'm good with that.
I would hope that we don't, in my mind's eye, have to reinvent the wheel to fix that wall. I just can't see this long, drawn-out process of engineering. We get people in here that know what they're doing, and fix the wall's kind of my mindset, but I would hate to spend oodles of money with an engineering firm about fixing a concrete wall when I bet we got that talent right in this town that could probably do that very easily.
Okay. Thank you very much. 6D. Dennis.
This pertains to the north, what we refer to as the North Mall parking lot. This is the one just north of Brambleberries and the insurance companies there. I know that there's opinions about why in the world does the city still own this parking lot and why do we have to maintain it. The reality is we do own it. It is a public parking lot and we have responsibility to maintain it. And we put this out to bid as well. We looked at it from a standpoint of just trying to fix the drive aisles or doing the whole thing at one time. It's taken a lot of beating with that being a snow dump during the winter months for snow piles, and having heavy equipment on there trying to get that moved off. We put it out to bid just as a complete overlay, and we received 2 bids. Again, one from Soderberg Construction and one from Trombley Industries. The amounts were $45,000 and $55,400 respectively. We would recommend that we move forward with the North Mall parking lot and award that bid to Soderberg Construction for the $45,000. The funds, again, would come out of the city's parking lot reserve account.
Chair will entertain a motion.
Move to accept Soderberg's construction, bid of $28,500.
$45,000, sorry.
Wrong one, right? 45,000.
I'll second that.
Moved by Jones, seconded by Jody, to accept Carl Soderberg Construction, bid of $45,000. Any other questions or comments?
Just the reason I sent the email out earlier and asking for the businesses that were affected by this. We talk a lot about how we can help small businesses downtown and this sort of thing. I mean, I don't know how much this will help them, but it'll improve their facade. We are responsible for maintaining that property. I mean, I've had my arguments way back about whether we should have the parking lot or not, but we do have it, and we do need to maintain it, and hopefully that'll make it a little more user-friendly for the businesses that are there. 6, I believe, just on that one parking lot, and I believe it's utilized by numerous other entities. So that's why I asked for that information in that email. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstained. Abstained. Doug Morrell, abstained. Thank you very much. Item number 7, new business. The July 2020 election poll times and warden appointments.
Mayor, I'm going to defer to
Wise move.
the city clerk on that one.
Just preparing, like to get things done. I know it's more than a month away. Approved the opening time of 8 o'clock and the appointment of myself as an election warden and Danielle McLaughlin and Sherry Garman as the deputy election wardens for the election.
July 14th election.
Correct. I didn't say that. Sorry. July 14th.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Jody, seconded by Joan. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Item 7B, rubbish hauler permit renewal for pine tree waste. Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Moved by you, seconded by Tom, for rubbish hauler permit renewal for pine tree waste. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Rubbish, 7C, rubbish hauler permit renewal for Caldwell Sanitation. Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Hugh, seconded by Tom. Any comments, questions, issues? Hearing none. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Under new business, 7D, liquor license extension for Maine Brew Pub. Dennis, you want to just fill in a little bit here?
This actually has two parts. One is the main brew pub would like to expand their outdoor dining area, and as such, they would have to get an extension or an expansion of their liquor license in order to serve drinks within that area. And then they are also going to be holding some of their, the beer garden and barbecue on Fridays and Saturdays. They would like to do it through the months of June, July, and August, and that would be behind the building to the west. Again, with moving into these areas around the building, they have to have the council approve this expansion of their liquor license. We do have some limitation because of the executive orders of the governor, in that really we can't approve the expansion of liquor license in the month of June yet because of the executive order standings, but we would be okay to have that part of the beer garden open in July and August, consistent with the executive orders of the state.
If I can have two motions, please. The one with the expanding their seating outside, and it's going to be on the south side of the building. If I could have that one, and then I've given Councilor Terrio the wording for the one for the beer garden for the months of July and August. And it's all been signed off by the chiefs and code.
Okay.
But not the state.
You have to sign off on them before the state approves, but the state won't approve for June, July, and August. They won't do it for June for the beer garden.
Hugh?
So moved.
Well, so this
This is for the first one. Let's do.
You're doing the first one.
Or for both?
I have some stuff here to read.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Do the first motion.
Oh, the first one. All right, that's fine. I'll second the first one.
Moved by Hugh, seconded by Jody. Would you once again read the first motion?
The first one would be for the additional seating to the south of the brew pub. Outdoor seating to the south, adjacent to the building.
That was the motion and seconded. Any questions or comments? Doug?
In the past, I know there was a restaurant that, in this extension of the eatery or the tables, are they serving liquor out there?
Yes.
So is the entrance to this area only through the facility?
Their map is indicating an access point through the building, and let's see. They have a restaurant entrance, and they do also have a street entrance with no alcohol beyond this point sign.
So I guess my point is, can somebody get up away from the table with a drink and walk out of that, whatever they're doing? Is it a fencing or a snow fence or
It will
whatever
be
it is?
fenced. It will be fenced, or it'll be sectioned off somehow.
Okay, whatever. That's what, in the past, I know of restaurants that had to live by the ruling that you had only access through the premises of the eatery.
They're indicating it would be a rope fence surrounding the expanded outdoor eating area.
With coming in and out from the restaurant itself, but a side door into or is it separate?
The illustration is that they would have if you were to approach the building, you would see a roped, fenced off area on the south side of the building, which would occupy what is currently parking lot. And there would be a method, or there would be an opening in the rope fence so that somebody could go directly from the parking lot into this outdoor seating area, and then also from the outdoor seating area into the restaurant. So they have a south entrance into the building from this new outdoor seating area as well.
And the reason I bring it up is that, for some reason, I recall a previous owner of an Italian eatery in town here that is I recall, was gonna have an outdoor, whatever you wanna call it, deck. And that they had to have it so you could not leave that deck. You had to go back through the eatery because of serving liquor. Just wanna bring that up.
Of course, this has to, once this, the town, the city approves it, it has to go to the state. And I understand that the manager has approached the state with their drawings for approval, like pre-approval.
The restaurant manager
Correct.
has
The
approached.
restaurant manager, not the city manager.
Right. Thank you.
Clarify that.
Okay, there's a motion on the table. Any other questions? Tom, did you have one?
I'm going to wait for the second motion.
Okay. All those in favor? Motion carries. Unanimous. Now, there's a two-part, the second, Joan.
Move to approve Northern Maine Brewing Company LLC's request for extension of license on premises for a beer garden on Fridays and Saturdays for the months of July and August, unless Governor Mills' rural reopening plan for this category of business changes.
So moved.
Moved by Joan,
Or seconded.
seconded by Hugh. Any comments or questions? Tom?
Why wasn't this emailed to the rest of the council so everybody could be apprised of this motion?
I did email it to Councilor Terrio.
To the
I just handed
rest,
it to her tonight.
I know, but all I'm saying is, so everybody could have put eyes on it. That's all I'm saying. Is
I did give it to the manager in an email dated Wednesday, May 27th.
okay. Either way, the way I look at it is, if the councilors are going to read motions, and everybody should be apprised of that motion. That way, everybody has the same equal chance of being able to look at it and chew on it. Because in my mind, I think that motion should have been for June, July, and August. Because basically what you're saying now is, if under the graces of everything that all is sacred and holy, this thing opens back up, then it's already stated in June that we can do it. Now we're kind of basically saying, well, if it opens back up, we got to come in and amend our motion. Because I think the end of that is a little vague.
And I would agree, Counselor. I would actually recommend that you approve it June, July, and August, subject to the state's guidelines. That way the state can limit the permit. We don't have to. I would agree with you on that.
Okay. Is that okay, Joan? Would you amend your motion?
I'll amend my motion to June, July, and August.
Okay. That's fair enough. I can stand behind that.
Okay. Moved by Joan, seconded by Hugh. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Item number 8, old business, adoption of ordinance and resolutions. I have none. Hearing none from the council. Item number...
Shoot.
Oh.
Hold on a sec.
Go ahead, Tom.
I wanted to real quick bring up what's kind of going on in front of Miss Jordan's daycare. I know she wasn't going to be able to be in here tonight because of the restrictions due to the COVID-19. Where are we at? Do we have any suggestions for her? I know Nicole, who wasn't here, raised some alarm on emails about that. And we can't rezone her as a school because it's in a commercial zone, correct? So we'd almost be spot zoning.
Right.
If we did that. That's the tough part about that, but what can we do? And the second part of that question is, how are we doing in getting her a sign?
Okay. Are you okay if we hold off on that discussion down to 10 or 11 on the agenda?
Sure.
No.
Yeah,
we
I'm
can
fair.
address that.
That's good.
Okay. Any other Old business? Hearing none? Item number 9A, 2020 revenue projections update. Dennis.
Counselors, in your packet is a copy of some updated projections for revenue. When I say updated, it's based on the understanding we have on the effects of all of the pandemic status, the emergency executive orders, and so on, and some of the ramifications that we're seeing from the state as far as revenue sharing. It's affected us in most departments one way or another, and overall, what we're looking at is from the projections we gave you back in March, we're looking at a reduction of over $318,000 of revenue. We have received a couple of grants that will help offset that, but even with those grants, we're looking at a little over $255,000 less revenue than we projected even in March. And as we look through this, I've provided you hard copies. This information is all out in the packet as well. You'll be able to see some of the numbers, some of the lines have increased a little bit, and some have gone down. Most of them we think will stay pretty consistent with where we were projecting in March. Just to highlight, I could walk you through every one of these that we expect an adjustment on if you'd like to go through those, unless there's some specific ones that you have questions about. But what's your preference?
My preference is just highlights.
Okay. Okay. Under general government, we have the first number that's adjusted is our city-owned property revenues. This is, we anticipate the sale of the 60 Access Highway, and with that sale, we are going to be receiving more revenue than we had expected in March. And so we're showing that there would be an increase of an additional $25,000 in that revenue, so from $30,000 to $55,000. The excise tax fund projections around the state were that as they're looking at the governor's allowance of delayed payment of excise, that it causes a delay in people coming in, and also in some people's minds, there's been questions of, do I even need to pay it this year? There's also been a lot less travel, and so that could result in people holding on to their car for another year because they're not traveling as far as they may have wished to. But indications are that we could see a reduction of almost $75,000 in excise tax this year. We were estimating a little over 1.5 million. And so we would be at roughly 1.45 million in that amount at the end of this year. The property taxes, which is line 32 under general government, this is the line, one of the lines that has the biggest change. With the homestead exemption that we've had some training on that, it results in $10 million of valuation becoming tax exempt, and with that tax exemption means that we're going to receive that much less property tax because of that exemption, and so there's a significant reduction there. It's a two-sided coin in this case, in that we will see a reduction in the property taxes, but we will be seeing an increase in the homestead exemption credit that we're going to be receiving from the state. So you can see under Department 22, there's a corresponding increase in revenue in that line of almost $240,000. And that is because of the state, where they've increased the homestead credit from $20,000 to $25,000 per home. They've said that that $5,000 credit, the state will reimburse us 100% of that new $5,000 credit amount. Other portions, the $20,000 credit, they only reimburse us a portion of that, or only give us a portion of those funds back. There's also, under property taxes, if you're comparing the property tax line with the homestead credit line from 22, you'll see that the property tax line is higher. And that is because I know the council has expressed an interest in reducing the mill rate this year. And so if we reduce the mill rate, that means we're going to be collecting less property tax. And that's why you'll see the negative $272,000 there, instead of a negative $240,000 there, which would be just the homestead credit.
Question on this. So it would, the 272 is just the homestead exemption, so if we reduce the mill rate by a mill, what would that represent?
The number that you're seeing tonight includes the homestead and reduction of the mill rate by an eighth. By an eighth. So if you were to reduce at a full mill, that number would be significantly higher than negative 272.
1/8, okay. Thank you.
Also, under general government line 52, you'll see a negative $26,000 under investment interest. We have later this year $3 million of CDs that will mature, and due to the current CD market and the investment rates that are out there, we anticipate that we're not going to get the same interest rate we have right now. And if interest rates hold the same today, when those mature in roughly 3 months, we expect a reduction of $26,000 in investment interest on those this year. There's really no other changes until we get to, just to highlight, there's a slight reduction in the code enforcement department, again due to reduction of activity. We see some anticipated reduction of permit funds. The library revenue, we projected $71,000 of revenue for the library this year, but the library has been one of those departments that's basically been closed. And just today, they were able to start issuing books out again. Hope let me know that they released 118 books to the public today, so the public is not coming into the library, but they are checking books out again. But due to the closure of the library, we expect that their revenue will also be dropping by about $2,000 from the $7,100. So a little over a third of their revenue would be reduced. The fire and ambulance department is another department that we expect significant changes in. With the pandemic and people not being out as much, one of the benefits has been there hasn't been as many people out getting hurt. But there's also been a little bit of a hesitancy to go to the hospital. And so there have been less calls for service with the ambulance. And so with that, there's been a corresponding reduction in number of calls as well as transfers in the department. So when you have reduction in calls and transfers, you're seeing less revenue coming back from the insurance companies. And so with the reduction in insurance and everything with contractual allowances and whatnot, we're looking at a estimated reduction of over $100,000 just due to transfers and calls and insurance reimbursements within that department. In the police department, we're looking at a total reduction, estimated reduction of $64,000 of revenue from them. Part of that is, again, with the pandemic situation, grants have been put on hold, or there have been extended deadlines to submit for grants, which may push some of those grant opportunities that we've received in the past into next year. The chief is projecting that we'd receive $30,000 less in salary reimbursement this year. And we've also been trying to work out with the school district the situation with the school resource officer. You may recall that we have a contractual obligation or a contract with them that they pay 85% of that time and we pay 15% of that time. Well, when the schools closed, they didn't need the SRO to be working in the schools, and so that cross payment has not been occurring, and as such we anticipate a reduction of $25,000 coming from the school district, and so we've picked up some more of the expenses related to that patrol officer. Under Public Works, the indication is we're probably going to get less LRAP funds. These are funds that the state provides to help with the maintenance of our more rural country roads. We anticipated, and we had told to us last year that we would be getting $143,000. The state's not given us a solid reduction amount yet for this year, and so right now we've conservatively put that we would have $10,000 less than what was told to us earlier. I think those are the main highlights for the reduction. Overall, operational revenue changes being $313,000 and a little over $313,000. This still does take into account the changes that we had in the EMS and fire service contracts. If those contracts had not been in place for this year, we would be significantly more impacted than we are now. But as it is, we're still, from the projections we had in March, we're looking at a reduction of $313,000. We also anticipate a slight reduction in the economic development TIP funds. Those funds are tied directly to the taxes that we collect and the mill rate. And so again, if we reduce the mill rate, we'll see a reduction in the amount of TIF dollars that we're able to collect. Right now, based on the assumed reduction of 1/8 of a mill, that we would have $5,000 left in TIF revenues this year than we projected. So recognizing that we started out in March with the expense budget and the projected revenues, we were anticipating that we would have a net benefit of roughly $25,000. Now, with these revised projections being negative $255,000, we're trying to now find almost $250,000 of where do we find the funds in order to balance the budget, to maintain operations and services where possible. And we are working right now with the department heads looking at the expense budget to say where can we trim. We're now almost halfway through the year, and so we recognize that there are some things that we had in the budget that we didn't start expending when we thought we would, and so we can do some reductions. We're not ready to present those to you yet. We haven't finalized the list. I can tell you right now it's roughly $170,000 down in expenses that we're looking at that we'd be able to present to the council. That still does not make up this full $255,000 reduction in revenue. And so we'll have to look at our funding options, possibly the emergency reserve fund that was set up for unique situations, and may need to tap into that in order to make some of these operations work this year. But we'll have at your next city council meeting recommendations for reduction of the expense budget.
Any comments or questions of Dennis? I didn't want to interrupt you, Dennis. So I'll start at the beginning.
Sure.
Could you just tell me again, please, about the excise tax being less than what you thought it would be?
There are some communities in the state that were projecting a reduction of excise tax of 12 to 15%. Those were communities that are much more populated than we are, a lot more vehicles, and we've looked at our situation up here. We don't think that that's reasonable to expect that amount of reduction. But knowing that there was delays in people registering their vehicles, there may be less purchasing of new vehicles because of people not driving as much. We anticipate there would be some reduction of excise tax coming in. We've only projected a 5% reduction rather than, as I say, the 12 to 15% that other communities have been saying that they would anticipate.
Okay. Talked to a car dealer and sales are above what they were last year at this time.
That's great.
Yep. No, I'm not saying that's with all car dealers. I'm just happened to have a chance to run into a gentleman and he was explaining his situation. People are still going to fish. People are still going to register their boats. Now, property tax. We ended up only $30,000 over what we did last year. That's what you're.
The March projection was assuming that the mill rate stayed the same and that we had a slight increase in the total valuation of the community.
Okay.
And that's, so yes, there was a slight increase of $30,000 from last year,
Okay.
actual to projected in March.
Okay. Fire and ambulance, the billings that are coming in because of lack of transfers and so many people aren't going to the hospital.
Right. The calls for service that we're seeing this year are similar to what we had in 2017. So they're trending downward as of almost 3 years ago.
Okay. Any comments or questions from the council? Thank you very much, Dennis.
If I might piggyback that discussion again toward the mill rate, we know that by charter we're supposed to set the mill rate by the end of June. We also usually anticipate that we're going to have information from the school district prior to that time, so we can roll all of that into our equations. The indication we're getting from the RSU this year is that they will give us their best estimate of what their budget will be by the end of June, but they may not actually have a vote on their budget until the second week of July. And so that puts us in a tough spot as a city to set the mill rate without knowing for sure what the school budget is. We will continue to address this with how do we do that, talking with MMA and what they might recommend. This may be another one of those situations where just because of the unique circumstances that we find ourselves in, we may be not setting the mill rate. I guess the preference of the council. We'll bring options to you, but we may need to look at, again, looking into July if you want to know what the solid number is.
Okay. You?
You mentioned how you're going through your, the expense side as well, but would it be possible to have like a first read proposal for the June 15th meeting of what that would look like based on what you know then?
Yes.
With a 1 mil reduction? And then we may have to adjust that on the 29th, and then may have to adjust it again based on how that vote comes out for the July 27th. But the next meeting have it kind of in a draft form. Would that be okay to everybody?
I anticipated bringing back to you our recommendations on the expense budget side by side with the revenue, and certainly we can present you a draft or a very preliminary mill rate calculation so you can see how all of that works out.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll piggyback on this one. Have we heard of a public hearing or anything on the school budget yet?
Jane, you have that number?
They had told me a date in June, but it's not looking as if they're going to be doing it on that date.
Okay.
They're waiting for some numbers.
Okay.
I'm talking staff and staff. People
Yeah.
talk. Superintendent manager.
Okay. If something were to come up before our next council meeting, would you email us as councilors that there is a public hearing?
Yes.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Thank you very much. Item number 10, City Manager's Report. Dennis, I think this is where Tommy's question comes in.
Right?
Okay.
As far as addressing Miss Jordan's preschool and daycare concerns that have been out on the social media waves this week, it's not specifically in my manager's report, but I have talked with the chief of police. We've had even as Ms. Jordan herself acknowledges in her video that was on social media, when the police presence is there, people tend to obey the law. Even the speed trailers, when we put those out, the indication is people are obeying the law. When those reminders are not present, and especially now with the stores not having many customers, the street feels wide open, people have a little more comfort level or a perceived ability to want to go faster or be able to do that. But reality is it still is a 25-mile-an-hour speed zone. We have not looked into putting speed bumps in the downtown area. Some communities have put in large humps. They're not necessarily speed bumps because we do have to plan for the snow removal in the wintertime. But we could, if the council wants us to look at the proposal to put in some speed humps, we could do that. Some communities are also putting in, they have special speed bumps now. They're designed to deflate if you're going the speed limit. If you're not going the speed limit, they stay inflated and you get a little extra ride for your money.
If those are cheap.
No, they're not. But there are some options if the council would like us to look at some additional traffic inhibiting devices down in that area. Because as has been pointed out, when we are present, the indication that we're getting from the police officers are that people are obeying the speed limit. It's when we're not present that there seems to be the issue. As far as the signage goes, we've presented, we did some mock-ups for new signage for the building, and at this point we're waiting for them or their property manager owner to bring back their bids for putting up the new signs so that we can review that with the facade grant that we have. But we've provided all the information that we can at this point. We're just waiting for them.
So we're waiting on the property owner.
And he may say that he's waiting on the tenant. It's a back and forth. Either way, as a city, we've provided what we can, even provided mock-ups. They just need to go and get bids.
Is there any way we can look into the feasibility of having a traffic camera there that will take a snapshot of a plate? How much would that cost? They do it on highways and stuff, and I think that would just be I've never priced one of them out. There's no speed limits on farm roads, so
We can certainly get an estimate for it and see what would be involved with
I mean,
getting
if
something
that's-
installed.
If everybody's kind of in consensus with that. Hugh's shaking his head no.
I'm not a fan.
I didn't see the thing on social media or anything, but I have received concerns from numerous citizens about the speed down there. I don't know what the answer is for it, but I have been approached by different individuals about this exact situation, so I think everybody probably has received concerns.
Doug?
This would be a great example and a great time not to be out on the ATV trails and maybe down here policing at 3:30 to 4:30. Let's be realistic. It's a small window there when the parents are picking up. I'm sure out of their busy schedule, we could probably get one of those expensive vehicles down there for that little window of time to encourage people, like myself, to slow down. Simple as that. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. We're not out on the trails. There's a good example right there. My 2 cents.
Thanks. Joan?
Is there any way you can put up a sign that's, a street sign or something along here, just to, it's only one way, so put up a sign that says daycare, area or something like that? I would think that a lot of people probably don't even realize when they go through there that there's a daycare area or anything there. But if like you see some signs where you go along the street and it says caution children at play or deaf child or something like that, you could put up a sign that would just say, daycare area, caution or something like that, or slow or something like that, to let them know what's there.
May I ask, what is the speed limit, 15 miles an hour?
25.
When school's in, it's 25 miles an hour?
If it was a school zone and we had flashing lights up, it goes down to 15.
So this is not considered a school?
It's not a school zone, no.
Okay.
That's why we can't put a sign up? I mean, can we put a sign up?
This
It
is,
says between whatever times it's 15 or?
if we wanted, I'll have to look into the legalities of that, because I know that there's some state protocols as far as what we can and can't change the speed limits to, and the rationale, but we
So,
can look at it.
so is it 25 miles an hour that people are complaining about? Or 35 miles? I mean,
Right.
what's the speed that people are having trouble with here?
It's higher than 25.
Higher than 25, they're going over 25, okay.
You can enforce the 25.
Well,
we'll look at the options.
what do people get ahead of speed and just head of steam and just buzz right through there?
No, what happens is, okay, it's a known fact in Caribou. It's kind of like Caribou lore. Is if you go around the outside of Herschel, it's longer now because you have to stop here, the end of Herschel, and you got to stop at the end of Sweden Street. But going downtown, well, it's all yields. So you get a slow car in front of you. I don't know this from being a juvenile delinquent, but you get a slow car in front of you, you cut through town, and that street that daycare is on, they have the right of way. Go right through. So, and it's been like this for years. I mean, people have used that downtown area as a racetrack. So that's kind of what the deal is. So.
We'll look at some of the options that have been discussed tonight.
I just wanted to bring it up, see what was going on.
Yep. Okay. As far as other items on the manager's report, currently the city's marathon is still moving forward, but we are watching large sporting events that are going to be taking place, or that were supposed to be taking place later this year. Some of those are starting to cancel. As I understand, the Boston Marathon is going to have a virtual marathon this year. Not sure how that works. I told the staff I'm going to plan my own course, and all downhill might win it this year, but we'll see. We'll look at it before the July 1st date and make a determination for the marathon this year. It really comes down to how, again, the social distancing and how all of that plays into it. With the marathon timing system that we have, it doesn't start when the gun fires for everybody. It starts when the person actually crosses the starting line. That's when their time starts. So things could be stretched out, but we need to look at that. We've cleaned up a couple of properties down on Patton Street, and we're in the process of taking down a property on York Street that's been on everybody's radar for a while. That should be down within the next couple of weeks. We were waiting for Amera to take the power drop off of that. We also have a property at 32 Fenderson Street. The adjacent property owner has expressed an interest in that property as soon as that building is down. And so we do have some funds this year to help take care of that, and that would get one less property on our city-owned list if we can get that taken care of. As far as highlights, the Sitel building, we're still waiting for Mr. Cassidy to present his redevelopment plans. The person that came and looked at the power plant properties, the indication is if the city had a vision for what they wanted to see happen down there, that they would be more interested. Right now, it seems that there's no real vision for how that property could be developed or the way we want it to be developed. And so we think it's probably a good opportunity to maybe get more of the property owners involved down around there, not only the power plant or the North Atlantic Salmon Group, but some of the others north and south of that, and begin putting together an area-specific plan for redevelopment of those grounds. With regards to the North Atlantic Salmon, the students from UMPI have completed their preliminary plans, and I don't know if I would even go so far as to say preliminary, their concept plans showing what type of development they would do down there with some trails, some public spaces, and a new fish hatchery going in. They submitted that by video, and if you're interested in seeing the videos, we can get a link sent to you for that. They're fairly large, so they won't go over the email system. But it's very interesting. It was very well thought out. It's not construction ready caliber material, but definitely is a good start in the right direction. With COVID-19, today, June 1st, the governor officially relaxed some of the standards in the executive orders, other things remaining in place. Again, as I mentioned, the library has begun to circulate books again, which is a positive. The indication that we're getting as far as recreation activities and the recreation center is that if we were to open up the recreation center, we would need to have significant more staff and cleaning supplies in order to monitor social distancing taking place, cleaning up after every use of every piece of equipment. And for the time being, the recommendation is that we leave it closed, especially where the temperatures are warmer and people can be outside recreating on their own without having to worry about utilizing more resources to follow the guidelines of the CDC and the state inside the building. The Blight Commission, we are continuing to work on the narrative of the report. If you're interested in seeing where we're at on that report, we can send you a link. We're about 60% done with that. The public safety building, we've talked about the retaining wall and the structural upgrades. Excuse me, that's right now we're just waiting to get final comments from the building committee on that. We did get one comment earlier about the energy efficiency, and they've asked me for some additional information about our heating system, which we'll respond back to in order to get a response on that. I think union negotiations, we're waiting on some mediation. The charter revisions, the ordinance number 1, which the council adopted, the public hearing has been set for that on the June 15th council agenda. So there was some question of if the council wants to have face-to-face input with the public for that hearing, we would need to choose a different venue than the council chambers, simply because of the capacity limitations that we have with the social distancing standards. If you would like to hold that at the recreation center and get face-to-face comment, we can do that. The negative side to that coin is that we can't broadcast that to channel 1301 if it's not here in the council chambers. It could still be broadcast to Facebook and our YouTube channel, but where many people utilize the cable system to watch these videos, we wouldn't be able to do that if it was held somewhere else. So something maybe to discuss as a council how you'd like to handle that. Right now, it's been advertised that we're going to hold it here in this chambers. So
That's going in Wednesday's paper.
So if you want to do something differently, tonight would be a good night to let us know. Otherwise, we'll just plan to.
Would it be wrong to ask ahead of time if anyone had any comments?
The advertisement has that language in it. Please submit comments to us ahead of time to be read. And so right now it would go out that way and we would hold the meeting here. But if you wanted to do it off-site, we would change the language.
So if we had 10 people wanted to make a comment, we could consider having it off-site. If 1 or 2 people wanted to make a comment, can they take turns coming in making comments? Is that right? Is that allowed?
We could look at the arrangement of this room and see if we could accommodate 1 person at a time coming in. I think that's probably doable.
Right. Well, if you could look at the options and Jane?
I have it advertised to have comments come to the clerk's office at 5:30 that night.
Similar to the regular agenda that we posted for this meeting.
Okay. Well, I would guess I was just wondering, can you have the comments come in before? So
Get an
if
RSVP.
there's no interest in too many people having a public comment, then there's really no reason to move the meeting. But how do you know that? Unless you ask for it
Right.
3 or 4 days ahead of time. Well, we'll play it by ear.
I think we can rearrange this room a little bit and maybe even have a mic at the door and take comment that way if people still wanted to come in person. But right now, the advertisement reads, submit your comments ahead of time.
So the option is they can present it in writing. No. Send it in and we will read it, or they come in person. Those are the two options.
We'll have to work on our social distancing out in the halls and the waiting areas for people that want to express in person.
Okay.
Okay.
But it's not advertised that way.
Right, yep,
Okay.
yep.
But it's advertised as going to be here.
Correct.
Okay.
Let's leave it like it is right now. We'll have it here. If someone's getting drift that there's 20 people that want to speak on this issue, let us know and we'll figure something out. If it's just one or two, we can stay right here. Somehow, stay right here.
Okay. We'll work on the logistics of it.
When is the date? I'm sorry, I didn't catch it.
The next city council meeting, June 15th.
It will be on June 15th, and we have to keep that date in order to keep the,
To meet our timeline to be on the ballot in November.
yep. Okay.
Yep. Okay. I think those are the main highlights from the manager's report, unless you have questions on anything else that's on there.
Can I request that the Miss Jordan stuff gets added to the report?
Any other comments, questions? I had an opportunity about a month ago to go to the, about 2 months ago to go to the library, and I was looking for an article dealing with some issues, and it was back in 2006 that I found it, and in the process I had to go through the archives. Hope and the staff did a real great job. Let me down into the cellar, and there were all the Aroostook Republicans, and boy, that's a bad habit to start reading. 14-year-old Aroostook Republicans. And you should have seen the color of a lot of people's hair back then as compared to today. And one of the most interesting facts is 14 years ago, everyone kept saying in the newspaper articles that we got to do something about the drug addiction problems. 14 years later, we're still saying it. Hopefully sometime in the future, we'll be able to see if we can address that at a council level. Not that government's the answer, but we can't give up. We got to keep trying. It's consuming too much of our energy, too much of our money, and too much of our calories dealing with this. So, but a shout out to Hope and to the staff. What a treasure to go down into the archives and read through that paper. Read through those papers. I want to say that I've had many, many compliments on the cleanup of the homes there by the bridge. Mostly from people on the other side of the bridge that have to actually drive by it all the time, but Looks great. Really impressive job. Cleans up the place. And if in fact that is the most heavily trafficked intersection in Caribou, it adds to it a lot.
Yeah, that was, Ken coordinated on getting the contractor, and Gary was down there, and he did some extra work coordinated with DOT as far as cleaning up into the DOT right-of-way. So Ken and Gary did some great work with that project.
It's a great job. And I thought the contractor did an excellent job too. Looks good. Which brings me to the next subject. I'll piggyback on this one, is the Blight Commission, the Blight Committee. And I'd really like to see something right off. We're about a month off right now from when we were hoping to get it done. And if it has to be broken down and we need a little more time, that's fine. But I'd like to particularly interested in seeing the aspects that deals with creating a land bank. Because there are other properties out there that a land bank could handle, in my personal opinion. A land bank could handle a lot more efficiently and a lot less expensive than what the hoops the city has to jump through to get things cleaned up, just because of the way the system is. So if anything could be done, because there are some people that I think would like to serve on a land bank committee and get up and rolling and get looking at it. Thank you, Dennis. Any other Doug?
Dennis, when can we expect the finalized draft of the RFQs?
Dave and I met last week, and we reviewed the details that are necessary for that. I think we can have that ready for you to have another review of it by the next meeting.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? I'll conclude the meeting. I'd like to few comments on Gary's letter. I stand by what I said, not by what Gary says I said. My point was that the Caribou citizens will get the full benefit of the homestead exemption. I'd like to show Gary the expense budget of 2019 and show him where we did save the money on the expense budget. I look forward to inviting Mr. Aiken when we open up, and I can answer all his questions. I definitely stand behind what I said in that meeting. And to misquote me is just meant to be a way just to keep the argument going. Any other comments or questions? You.
As I remember it, Dennis put together a spreadsheet with all the different years and the different tax exemption amounts and budget changes, and showed in that year and what this year would potentially be. That really kind of explains all of it, right? So
Yeah, it's all explainable. It's just,
Are you willing to look there to find it?
yeah,
yeah, it was on there.
it's there.
Yeah.
It's definitely there. But we have several people. I mean, Roger Felix wrote us a letter, asked us many questions, and I'd like to answer them. But I'd like to do it one-on-one as an agenda item and explain. So, but we'll wait until the time's there. And we have, can I ask a question of the council? Because Dennis and I had quite the conversation when we were setting this agenda. You know, we were just ready to have recognized the basketball team for their great performance again this past year. And we were told to shut down. So we said, well, we'll do it at a later date. And I just thought it would be appropriate to have a few of the students show up, the coach, present the award, get our picture in the paper. But it looks like it might be July and August, and do we keep waiting or do we do something and send it to them without them being here? We don't have to make up our mind now, but we have the Boy Scouts wanted to come. Once again, they were all set to come at that next meeting, and we were told to shut down, so we've been putting the Boy Scouts off. And there was another one. Oh, the Spirit of America Award. And we want to do that right. If the council thinks we ought to go ahead and do it and send them something without them coming in to receive it, that's fine. I just want to let you know Dennis and I are we've talked it over, and we've never really had an answer. We're just kind of seeing the pros and cons of doing it. So think it over and well,
You could,
But we can now.
yeah.
In front of the city office, right in front of here, and have a picture and recognizing if it's some nice evening or something. It's still light out.
that's an option. It's an option.
In front of the caribou.
Pardon?
In front of the caribou, or?
Yeah, wasn't wrong.
That's an option.
The high school's holding their graduation ceremony Sunday, so there was a little concern of how many of them are going to be here. If we do something, I think we could set something up maybe for an outdoor picture and just set it up maybe separate from a council meeting, but still have a photo op and invite them to gather. Well, not necessarily gather, but as long as there's less than 50 people, we can gather, but maintain our social distancing.
Confusing.
Okay. As a trial balloon, hello, what do you think of this idea? And just ask them. Ask the coach or whoever the proper authority is to ask.
Oh, yeah.
We could probably do it like at 5:30 before the council meeting or something if you wanted to. And of course, by if you want to go from Caribou or
Yeah.
whatever.
At the time, it was the standard on TV, newspaper guy here taking a picture. But it's a different deal now. And maybe that is how we'll handle it. I don't know.
You could record it on a phone or something like that and put the video online or whatever. So that they could
Do we have that technology?
Yes.
We do. That's a good option. Then
Okay.
it would be on the scroll, or would it be on like right after a city council meeting or during a city council meeting?
We can play it through my computer onto 1301. And then we could also post it out to YouTube and Facebook.
Hey, 2 or 3 minute video, we can do it right during the meeting.
Okay. I'll coordinate with Christina and we'll set something up.
See if something can be done.
Okay.
So we're talking the basketball team, spirit of America. I'll take the Boy Scouts. Let me call and see, because part of their deal was to attend a meeting so they could get their badge. I don't know if this will qualify for getting their badge. Let me ask and see. Any other comments, questions? Okay, hearing none, we have an executive session. And it is under Title 36-841, a property abatement request. Is there a number with that, Jane, that I need to say?
Collective bargaining status update. A.
A?
12.
Okay.
We'll do 12A first, and then we can go into 13.
Okay.
Look on your little sheet.
Yep.
It'll tell you what collective bargaining.
4015, the motion to go into executive session, Title 1405.6 for collective bargaining status update. Does that work?
Second.
Okay. Moved by Jody and seconded by Tommy. 4056. Well, what do we call it? 4056. I don't even see a
6D, right?
D.
Labor negotiations?
D. Let's try D. See if someone sues us. Okay. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor? Thank you. Thank you very much, and have a great evening.